The protagonist was the CDO of a gaming company that has been enjoying absolute success. The company he runs has been making millions, and he seems to be a genius at investments and a legend when it comes to making money. He has the Midas touch, everything he touches turns to gold, he's the prodigy boy. But all of this seems to be the life our protagonist led. It's not known how he died, but right now he's in the college dorm room. Voices call for someone named Qian, saying he'll be late. It's the university vice president's class, and they have to sign the attendance sheet. When he wakes up, his friend has a psychopathic smile looking at him. He's confused, and the friend leaves the room saying he'll be in trouble if caught. This is our protagonist, Pai Qian, 19 years old. As he looks at the door, he realizes it's 2009, and he's gone back 10 years. He pinches his cheek, but realizes he's not dreaming. And like a good reincarnate, the little system appears. The wealth conversion system is linked to the host. Some information is shown, including an initial capital of $50,000 in personal assets. He'll receive money from the system to manage any company. And the profit or loss the company incurs will turn into money in his account. However, for every $100 profit, he earns $1 in his account, and for every $1 loss, he also earns $1, meaning it's 100 times more advantageous for the company to lose money. He just needs to create a company that loses a lot. Look at the smirk he gives when he's thinking about how bright the future will be. The system asks for the company name, and he puts in Soaring Tenga, and the system warns that the next calculation date will be in 14 days. But they will be postponed if he doesn't have any products announced. Our protagonist says it's much easier to lose money than to earn it. If in his past life he was a successful investor with 10 years worth of memories, he'll do everything to lose as much as possible. He already knows everything that will be profitable, so he just needs to not invest anything for it to have a chance of succeeding. The only question left is what kind of company he should open. He has a mental conference with 5 versions of himself. It's the first meeting of the challenge to see who can lose the most money. One of them raises his hand and warns him that the system has various restrictions. He can't use the money for illegal investments, real estate speculation. He can't keep buying useless materialistic items, and he can't buy cryptocurrencies. Basically, the money has to be used in the company with the intention of making it succeed, but it has to fail. The world he's in is very similar to the one he lived in. The only differences are that the technology is slightly more advanced, and copyright protections are also slightly better. Thinking about these two cases, he imagines that making games would be a good idea, explaining to his mental clones that it's very easy to consume capital by making games. Not to mention that games are volatile. At any moment, people's interests can change. Or they can get tired of the game, all of which causes many players to leave and them to incur losses, which is very good. Not to mention the best part of games is that there's nothing physical. So after bankruptcy, they really end up with nothing but debts and a bunch of useless code. The other clone says that with memories of the last 10 years, they know exactly what kind of games people want. Just avoid those and everything will be fine. Now they're already excited. Step 1. Make a crappy game. Step 2. Convert the losses into personal assets. Step 3. Every $1 of loss turns into profit and he becomes rich. In this life, he'll lose a lot of money, but he'll be the most successful person. Next chapter, the first game has been released. Someone is driving a truck on a desert road thinking that the graphics of that game are horrible. Also, the steering wheel is too stiff, and the sound is extremely tedious. But the guy adjusts his glasses, saying he's played a lot of bad stuff, and this is quite common, so he's used to it. The only strange thing is that the game is too boring. He's been driving for ages. 10 more minutes pass, and he says he can't take it anymore. Looking ahead, he starts having an emotional crisis. Who am I? What do I do? What does this game want from me? I just keep driving forward without stopping. There are no curves, nothing. This game doesn't show any change. At this moment, the guy realizes something. Wait, this is just like my life. Extremely boring and unchanging. He decides he needs to stop playing this for a bit, but when he clicks to pause, there's no pause. He's infuriated with this damn game. What kind of game doesn't have a pause? But he also thinks that his life is like that. No pauses, you have to keep going even when you don't want to. Suddenly, he crashes into a pillar, and the game asks if he wants to try again. He's outraged. He's been driving forward for 30 minutes, and the game is asking if he wants to try again. He's made up his mind. After he finishes eating, he's going to turn this game into content for his channel of horrible games. Back at the university, our protagonist is watching the guy's video. Who says the game is basically a straight line with some curves occasionally. If you fail, you have to start from scratch. But he found it brilliant that the game humiliated him in the end by saying, "Congratulations on wasting 8 hours of your life. That's when he realized that the creator's goal with this game was to create a reflection, to make you wonder why you're spending so much time on it. In the comments, people are loving the game, saying that the 8 hours are almost meditative. For those who need to find a new direction in life, it's perfect to play this while thinking about your future. Our protagonist is angry. He created it to be the most boring and stupid thing. So why are they so excited, saying that this game changed their lives? He goes to the comments and warns, "I'm the developer of the game and deliberately made it terrible. It's not for you to think there's any message in it. It's crap, so don't buy it. It's not worth it." But people don't care, saying they bought it to have fun with friends just for the heck of it. And they're really enjoying it. Our protagonist is confused. Something's wrong with this world, or is he going crazy? He did everything to create the most tedious and boring game possible. So why did a big streamer play it and like it? Worse still, he promoted it to a bunch of people. With that, the $50,000 he was supposed to earn turned into $700. Our hero is shaken and spitting blood. He then has to have another mental conference and announces it's an emergency meeting. He never imagined that horrible game would sell 200,000 copies, and after deducting all the investment, they made a profit of 70,000. From 100 to 1 turned into 700. He drinks a coffee, saying there's no use crying over spilt milk. They need to discuss now how they're going to spend the next $50,000. One of the clones says maybe the best thing to do is to bring in someone to help. Someone who's a failure. Someone who can't succeed with any game, and suddenly the protagonist has an idea. He knows the perfect person who's always been by his side. Someone who ruins everything they touch, the best companion to drag the team down. At this moment, the friend named Mei Yang enters his room, saying he brought some food for both of them. Our protagonist tells him he's the perfect person. He's a bit confused there, and the scene changes to a bar where everyone is toasting and eating. Mei Yang asks why he suddenly invited him to eat. Did he get some money? In a way, he did. $700 and lost $50,000 because of it. The poor guy worked day and night to have $900 in the account, and now he's crying. But he realizes that the system has some kind of minimum value, and anything below that is completed by the system. This time he received $300,000 and needs to spend it all. Mei Yang tells him to eat, but our protagonist says he's developing a game and asks if he's interested in participating. Mei Yang is startled, asking where he got the money to do something like this, and Pai Qian invents that he's from a wealthy family and his father gave him $300,000 to venture out. Mei Yang asks if he knows how to program or do design. Pai Qian obviously says no. Who cares about that? Just buy some cheap design packages and it's fine. But Mei Yang says he's unsure. It's strange to spend so much money. What if they lose everything? Pai Qian gets angry. Now this damn guy is suddenly full of conscience. How is he going to convince this guy to lose money with him? But the damn guy is going to use failure for success. He gives a little cough and asks, "Have you heard of the game Solitary Desert Highway?" Mei Yang says he has. It's that stupid game where you drive for 8 hours aimlessly. Pai Qian then reveals he created it, and Mei Yang spits his coke across the table and asks, "You created that damn thing? If that's the case, I changed my mind. I didn't know you had that much talent, brother. If you have enough talent to turn that trash into a famous business, I'm with you. I'm not good at anything, but I'm reliable." He rushes off, saying he'll read everything about game development to be the best and help his friend. Pai Qian wanted to stop him, but the guy was already gone, and now there's nothing to be done. But this guy has never done anything good in his life, right? The only problem is that he's a bit too enthusiastic, so is it a good idea to hire him? That same night, when Mei Yang returned to the room, he had a ton of books. From programming to game design. There's even a book about neck pain, since he's going to be working a lot. Pai Qian finds it impressive, but the damn guy isn't a programmer. So he just congratulates him, saying it looks like I hired the right person. Mei Yang thanks him, saying that's great. He'll start with high-level programming for beginners. Reading the book, he says he understands the individual words, but nothing beyond that. Pai Qian thinks he just bought those to take up space. Then he tells Mei Yang, focus on design, not programming. Besides, the content of those books is outdated. Mei Yang replies, that's why these useless books were all on sale. What do I do with them now? Pai Qian tells him, just take a quick look at those books and then we'll reimburse them as a company expense. Mei Yang thanks him and is impressed, but decides he'll study a bit. Later, he fell asleep with the book on his face. Pai Qian pounds the table excitedly. Thank goodness. He has a lot of willpower, but really, his skill is zero. It's this kind of person that I need. It's just a pity there isn't a bunch more of him. A company like that would be perfect for sure. But now it's time to confirm exactly what he's going to do with the $300,000. in case of losing the $300,000. He takes out some Yu-Gi-Oh style cards, and Mei Yang asks, "Are you trying to create a mobile card game?" Pai Qian says that's the idea. They're going to create a card game based on the Three Kingdoms, and he's already bought all the basics. Mei Yang asks, "Did you see that the Three Kingdoms are trending and want to use them as a reference?" But there are several companies already making mobile card games, and besides, there are several that are very popular, and it's all very common. But obviously, that's Pai Qian's plan. He's going to develop a card game in the fiercest and most competitive genre of all. That way, a bad game won't stand out. With so many others on top, obviously it won't attract much attention. This time, he'll definitely lose. In the mental meeting, they were discussing that current card games have a payment limit. This is so people can't reach the top of the rankings just by spending money. They have an idea. What if they set the payment limit extremely high? One of the clones says, "But then the players will criticize, right? Because whoever has more money will win." But one of them adjusts his glasses and says it's dangerous. What if a millionaire comes along and spends a lot of money? They'll end up winning again. Those guys who buy a dragon's sword and level 1 armor will get screwed. He then has an opposite idea. What if they make it so the guys who can spend money can't spend money even if they want to? Then the game will be cheap, and furthermore, it will only sell a VIP and nothing else. With such a low payment limit, it will be very difficult to make money. They're already imagining all the angry players wanting to use their wallets but not being able to. Pai Qian shows Mei Yang the game template he bought, which is basically a ready-made game, and you just change some information and theoretically it's yours. And what are they going to launch differently? Absolutely nothing. But Mei Yang is shocked. This damn thing costs $100,000. But Pai Qian says it's a steal. $100,000 is really too cheap for this scumbag since he wanted to spend $200,000. He then points to the screen and says that now they have to add combat effects, some card designs, and other artistic features. And Mei Yang is shocked. Wow, do we have to spend even more? What's the budget for everything that's left? Pai Qian says he'll spend $30,000 on music and sound effects, $10,000 on other expenses, and the remaining $70,000 on design. Mei Yang is confused, all this on design. He then organizes some papers and hands everything to Mei Yang, and says he'll take care of the interface and special effects. And the character cards, he'll let Mei Yang handle them and hands him a list of character names. But the poor guy is sweating bullets and says, "I've only watched this Three Kingdoms show twice and I don't even know the characters on the list." Pai Qian says it's okay. He trusts him. All he wants is something original and innovative. Insecure, Mei Yang says it's okay. He'll do his best. Pai Qian says, "You can do it, kid," but deep down he's praying he can't. "I left the hardest part to you, making the game fail." Sometime later, Mei Yang is saying he's lost. He doesn't know where to start. And obviously, Pai Qian says it's okay, relax. The character visuals are up to the artist, he just needs to give a general idea. And it has to be something extravagant and innovative. He can't forget that. Mei Yang asks, "Can I turn Guan Yu into a dragon?" He says he can. "Can I make some random guy into a centaur?" You can. "Can I turn a woman into a dragon too?" You can. Do whatever you want, dude. "Can I turn the character everyone loves into a little dragon loli?" You can too. Mei Yang is happy, and Pai Qian says he's a genius, how amazing everything he does is. He's changing all the characters into women wearing skirts. This is going to be a disaster. It's really an incredibly stupid idea he's following. Since successful games are using a more cartoon style, he decides to use a realistic style to go against the trend. He finds someone on the internet named Huan Guanjin. The guy's designs are extremely simple and dull. And since his focus seems to be cartoon style, if he asks for realistic, it will surely turn out like garbage. Plus, it's very cheap, which is even better, as it guarantees the guy is bad. He writes an email and sends it to the guy. Now he's confident, a rookie artist drawing something he's never drawn before, and his lost friend giving the worst ideas possible. Surely all the Three Kingdoms fans will hate it all. Finally, he'll manage to lose the $300,000 and make $300,000 in profit. Sometime later, the two are in a cafeteria, and Pai Qian is looking at the descriptions Mei Yang wrote. It's so bad it would have been better to leave it blank. There's no detail about the design, just about the race and color of the character. It's truly an unacceptable summary. He thanks Mei Yang, saying it's perfect, he could never do something like this, thinking that clearly it has no characteristics of the Three Kingdoms. You can't even tell it's based on them. Then Mei Yang says he has a crazy idea. Pai Qian wants to know what the idea is, and Mei Yang says, "Why don't we turn all the characters into women?" But Pai Qian immediately tells him to stop with that idea. Mei Yang asks why, and Pai Qian responds that there's a danger of people getting angry, but in reality he's afraid of it being successful. He then says that the idea is already great. Leave those centaurs, the dragons, really, this way it's much better. Meg Yang says okay then. Pai Qian gets up and says he'll send the contents to the artist later, while thinking that it's easy to fool this guy. In the city of Mo at the University of Finance and Economics, we see three guys in the dorm room talking. They're asking the guy in jail what kind of job he got and who the client is. The long-haired guy tells them to leave because he has to go to a meeting and they'll have to start working soon. He then enters a sort of virtual reality to talk to Pai Qian. His name is Huang Guangjun, and he asked our protagonist how many characters he wants and what the requirements are. Pai Qian says he doesn't want a cartoon style and needs 54 drawings of each character, so 200 in total. Huang Guangjun is a bit surprised because he only draws cartoons, and then he says he wants 2,000 per set. It may seem like a lot, but he's a capable rookie. But Pai Qian doesn't like that price. It's too cheap and won't make a dent in his money. So he says no, that price isn't suitable. Huang Guangjun says that's the minimum he'll accept, but Pai Qian starts explaining that he needs innovative designs so the difficulty will be great. Also, the one who planned it doesn't have much knowledge of art, so that's why the descriptions are vague. In this case, he'll pay 3,000 per set since that's what's appropriate. Huang Guangjun is shocked and says it's the legendary reverse negotiation when someone argues because they want to pay more. So Pai Qian sends the list of characters and tells him to take a look. But Huang Guangjun is shocked your list has no details. It makes no sense at all. Besides, it has no references. He'll have to create everything from scratch. Pai Qian says it's okay. He trusts 100% in his artistic talent. He can draw whatever he wants. He won't ask again. If he wants, he can record this conversation and show it to the judge. Huang Guangjun says okay, he believes it, and then they sign the digital contract. With that, Pai Qian thinks it's done. Now it's just buying the music and sound effects, renting the hosting service, and the last 10,000 will be spent. Obviously, he didn't leave any money for marketing since the goal isn't to be successful. In his room, Huang Guangjun gathers everyone and talks about the job. Seeing how much they're going to be paid, the guys are motivated. It's a very good price. Is he paying you all that? Really, I draw cartoon style as much as he wants. But Huang Guangjun warns that it's not actually a cartoon style. He wants everything realistic. The guys are shocked, but why did he ask for that if all of his portfolio is cartoon style? Huang Guangjun says he hates drawing cartoons and his portfolio is like that because all mobile games have been asking for that type of design. He had no choice, so he accepted the jobs. But finally, he doesn't need to draw that anymore. He can show his true value. Sometime later, looking at the computer, he chose the epic oil painting style, with strong strokes and lots of shading. His friends ask if that will really meet the client's needs. Huang Guangjun says he chose this style to highlight the grandeur of the creatures. It's the perfect style for when the art differs from humans, but normally the style of the Three Kingdoms doesn't fit with this. But since the guy changed everything, this case fits well. But his friends warn that they won't be able to help him in this case since they don't understand this style. Huang Guangjun says it's okay. They'll do the initial part and they'll finish later. They're talking about how they need to make this work. The client even pays well, surely has other contacts. They just can't make the poor client lose money. So the motivated Huang Guangjun tells everyone that they'll do their best, and everyone's excited. 3 weeks later, he's finished. Dude, the poor guy turned into a skeleton, but everything's ready. Everyone worked really hard, and they can eat. But they don't have the energy to get off the floor. The room is full of Coke and Red Bull cans, and he says they'll go out for lunch tomorrow. He sits at the PC and says he finished the 200 drawings. When Pai Qian received the file, he was impressed that the guy really sent everything on time, and he's curious to see how it turned out. He still has the remaining money, so he decides to spend it on a few more items. But first, he's going to take a look at the design just to see how bad it turned out. Upon opening, the first thing that comes up is the divine fighter Guan Yu. The art is insane and extremely good, and Pai Qian gets mad, saying this costs much more than what I'm paying. Was this guy tricking me? His portfolio had nothing about this type of drawing. So an emergency meeting is necessary. Unfortunately, the game needs to be launched in 2 days or the system won't make the payment. One of them says it's okay, even though the drawings are well done. Things may not go so well since the characteristics are very different. Also, they only use the old game model, and the gameplay is quite boring since they didn't buy any more resources. It's as dull as possible. But one Atai says that the art doesn't matter. If no one clicks, they won't even see it. They need to release this game with the most ridiculous name possible. And it can't contain 3 kingdoms in the name at all, or it might end up getting some clicks. Mei appears behind him and asks what he was looking at. When he sees the art, he's impressed with how good it turned out. Paikian says it's all thanks to his talent, and Mayang responds, "Wow, I really didn't know I had this talent." Paikian then asks him to test the game just to see if there are any bugs, and Mayang then asks what the name of the game will be. Our protagonist says it will be Ghost General, a card game. Back in Guanjun's dorm, they're celebrating the end of the project and went out for a barbecue to relax. One of the guys asks when the game will be released and what the name is. Somewhat embarrassed, Guanjun says it's Ghost General, but he doesn't know when it will be released. We'll take a look at the platform and is shocked because the game has already been launched. The friend is also confused, asking, "But didn't you send the illustrations this morning? It's already launched now." They take a look and the game's description is, "This is a normal card game." They think it's very dull. However, they recognize that Solitary Desert Highway was also made by this company. Not to mention, the game is being sold for $7, which doesn't make any sense. So they buy it, saying they at least need to see their work in the game. The guy with glasses finishes the tutorial and goes to buy 10 cards to see what he gets. However, he immediately receives 2 legendaries at once and feels lucky, but the other says he also got 2 oranges, and the other got 3. Guanjun wonders if it's because of the testing phase and the chance of getting the rare card is increasing. Then one of the friends shows that the game's store only sells a very cheap VIP ticket. They decide to take a look at the other systems. Is there anything premium? The other games have up to level 8 for you to evolve. Guanjun sees that there's nothing and says he'll ask the boss, and he thinks it's not in the final version yet. He then asks about all this and if these things will be added. But Paikian warns, this is the final version. In the mental meeting, Guanjun asks if there will be more items in the store, and Paikian says they won't release anything else. Guanjun is shocked and asks why, and our protagonist explains that they want to focus on the fixed price, and they don't feel like putting a bunch of purchases in the game. Obviously, it's because he doesn't want people to have any chance of making money. Guanjun asks if he'll do marketing, since downloads are low, but Paikian says there won't be any marketing, and Guanjun wants to know why. Our guy explains that they've already spent all the money, and nothing is left of the $300,000 budget they had. Guanjun lowers his head, and the friends ask what happened. Guanjun then says that Ghost General needs their help. He thought that Chief Paikian was super rich, and that's why he didn't try to lower the price and even mention a fair value. But now he understands very well. Chief P doesn't want to get his hands dirty for money, and he doesn't want to sell his values. The kid in the black shirt says that without marketing, it's impossible for the game to become popular. And the one in blue says they should help with promotion. The last one says they're not streamers or popular gamers. They can't do that. But Guanjun pounds on the table, saying the boss was very generous and they need to reciprocate. He knows several famous artists and will ask for their help. Sometime later, Mayang is sad, saying their game seems bad and no one is interested. Usually, successful games have millions of downloads, so why does theirs have so few? Paikian puts his hand on his shoulder and tells him not to worry. It's common for a new game like this to go through this situation. Things will get better. However, he's incredibly happy. It's obvious that there are no downloads. There's no marketing, so it's perfect. Mayang says he'll take another look since it's been 3 hours since he last checked. However, Paikian is confident he can look as much as he wants. It can be 3 days, a month. No one will see this game. Just maintain this pace and the $300,000 will land in his account. But Mayang's eyes sparkle, and he says the number of downloads has finally increased and lots of people even left positive reviews. Paikian is shocked and asks what the heck is going on. In the comments, everyone is praising the game. Paikian doesn't understand. He's sure he didn't do any marketing or ask anyone to leave 5-star reviews, so what's happening? Trembling with rage, he falls onto the bed, wondering how this could have happened. Mayang tells him, "I know you worked hard, bro, and things are improving, but don't get too excited." Paikian says he understands. "I'll contain my joy here. I'm really excited." He gets up, thinking he can't cry over spilled milk. He needs to figure out where he went wrong. So he observes the comments again and realizes everyone is talking about the art. He decides to research this and finds a topic where several artists seem to be promoting the game. And right there, he sees at Huan Guanjin, he found the culprit. Now he's mad. Why is this guy helping me so much with marketing with so much free time? He then sends a message to Guanjin asking if he promoted Ghost General. Guanjin says yes. He even got other artist friends to promote it and told everyone how great it was to work with boss Paikian, who pays well and appreciates an artist's work. Because of this, everyone was moved to help. Finally, someone like that in the game industry. Paikian thanks him with hatred, and Guanjin wishes good luck to the boss. He's sure he'll make even better games in the future. A week later, it's time for the system to tally everything up. Paikian is on the balcony looking at the screen. The game has already made $500,000, and considering everything he spent, the investments, system calculations, he's made $2,000 and missed the chance to earn $300,000. His mental state is collapsing. The only thing he has in his favor is that the system's value will increase. The next settlement date will be in 3 months, and the value will already be over $6 million. He'll probably have to hire an expensive workspace, costing around $400,000 a month, and another 30 employees, costing around $200,000 a month, plus a bunch of good equipment to spend another $1 million. It will be laborious, but maybe he can stay afloat. Mayang then touches his shoulder and says they should eat something good with all this success, and Paikian agrees, remembering that he promised to take him to eat something nice if everything went well. On the stairs, Mayang asks what's wrong. He seems worried, and Paikian says it's nothing serious, not to worry, it's just that he's very busy with all of this. Mayang says now that he's the boss of a successful game, he should hire an assistant to help, and our protagonist ponders this. Mayang explains that's how every story he sees goes. The boss always has to be bossy, drive luxury cars, flirt with all the girls, and dump all the company's work onto the assistant. Paikian loves the idea. It's perfect to hire an assistant to spend money. He needs to hire a professional who can do everything and costs extremely high. This way, he'll have someone to set up the new office, hire a bunch of people, and spend a lot more money. So he goes to another company saying he's looking for an assistant, and the guy asks what the requirements are. Paikian says he wants the best and most expensive, and the guy gives him a list saying they're all the best in hand-on. They're disciplined, talented, well-behaved, and conduct themselves properly. He sees a girl named Shin Haelu who worked for a foreign company's vice president. However, it doesn't say there that she left the company. What happened? The guy says it seems he doesn't follow the news much. Paikian is confused and asks what he's talking about. The attendant then tells him that the vice president of the company she worked for tried to have some fun with her, but got slapped so hard his dentures flew out. It became news, and the vice president lost his job and she resigned. Paikian says he wants her then, but he has one request. She can give suggestions when he asks, but in any other situation, she must remain quiet and not question. The guy says he can trust her professionalism. 3 days later, on Monday, a luxurious car arrives and a beautiful woman steps out. Shin Haelu, with a salary of $30,000. She opens the door for Paikian, who doesn't quite fit with all this luxury. They go to the part of town with the most expensive commercial offices. The attendant tells him that if he wants a whole floor for his company, he can have the 17th floor. In the office, Paikian says the view isn't bad, and the guy tells him that if the company is recent, the government can provide assistance to them. Additionally, they can rent with just 1 month's deposit, so it's very easy. Paikian asks how much it costs, and the guy says it's 4 yuan per square meter. Paikian says it's too cheap. Obviously, the attendant is surprised, but Paikian is thinking that with all the expenses combined, it would be about 450,000. The attendant is baffled. This kid seems unassuming, but apparently, he's really rich. Paikian sighs, thinking it's 1 yuan per meter, cheaper than he estimated. Unfortunately, he'll save 90,000 a month. The guy asks if he's satisfied, and Paikian says that since it's the best they have, he'll have to accept it, unfortunately. He somehow needs to start losing money since Ghost General is becoming too successful. The guy then says he'll prepare the contract immediately. Later, Paikian talks to Haelu and tells her that a good working environment greatly improves employee performance and also enhances the company's image. She takes notes. He says the office desk has to be expensive and elegant, the computers have to be the best, the mouse has to be good, the keyboard has to be mechanical, and the monitor has to be the most expensive available. Since it's a gaming company, they need everything of the highest quality. Additionally, they need plants for the employees when they're stressed and someone to water them. It might seem useless, but they also need someone just to water the plants. Also, they need the most expensive treadmills possible since everyone sits for long periods. It's good for them to stretch their legs a bit. He also wants a tea table so they can relax. Shin Haelu says she's noted everything and asks him what an acceptable price would be. He says at least 500,000, but as close as possible to 800. With rent, equipment, and office, he's already close to $1 million. He then goes with Haelu to buy some suits, obviously the fanciest and most expensive ones. Since the system didn't say anything about not being able to buy, he bought several. And Haelu even said she would buy some more casual clothes for him. On the way back home, she handed him a shopping list. The list had several unnecessary items for an office, but it's what he asked for, and she says she saved as much as possible. Then she takes him to a house she rented for him. Paikian is impressed that the system allowed this to happen. Apparently, things that influence the boss's image are really part of the company. Shin Haelu tells him to rest and that the clothes will be delivered to his house. He asks her to please prepare the documents of the candidates he's going to interview. She says it's her responsibility, of course. There's a minimum profit requirement in the system. You can't just throw everything away and go bankrupt. He needs to stay at a loss, but still within a certain value. This means he has to hire someone not too good, but also not hire a delinquent. Paikian remembers another useless guy he knew from college, a guy who just played games all day. Of course, someone who plays games all day doesn't necessarily know how to make a game. So he goes to the guy and throws the money, asking if he's willing to create a game. If this guy works with them, there's a dual monitor and the best computer available, and he can play games all day. The guy asks what he'll do at the company, and Paikian says he'll be the game tester, so he just has to play literally. If he wants, he can give suggestions on designs and games. The guy says he'll think about it. Maybe he'll accept. Paikian then touches his shoulder and says he's waiting for them at the company. He'll call him on the phone, and now he's going to get his hair cut with that money. The chubby guy takes the money and cries, saying someone finally recognized his worth. Then, a guy named Huang Zibo with yellow hair is in front of the company, wondering if this is where the two legendary games, Desert Lonely Highway and Ghost General, were created. He enters somewhat embarrassed, lowers his head, and goes to the elevator. When the door opens, the company's planning chief, Han Yang, is there. The guy has a salary of 7,000. Huang Zibo is surprised and greets the guy, who points at him and says the company here has very high demand, so he won't be hired. The kid wonders, wow, I didn't expect even he would come for an interview. Was it for the legendary Tengda? He goes to the 17th floor thinking, if even Liu was so sad, he probably wasn't accepted. And if an experienced guy like him wasn't, imagine me. He arrives at the reception and is impressed. The receptionists are famous twins. They then say they'll take him to the interview room, and in the company there are already a lot of things installed and people playing. She knocks on the door, calling for Boss P, who tells them to come in. Our protagonist tells him to sit down, and he goes somewhat embarrassed and greets him. Noticing the silver cup, he can see the level is different there. Paikian asks where he worked, and the guy says he worked at Changyang. He sees Paikian laughing and hesitates. Is he laughing at me? I really shouldn't have come here. I'm just a beginner in this industry. Peg tells him he's excellent and says he meets all the requirements, asking when he can start working. The guy is confused and says the day after tomorrow. So Paikian tells him to bring his resignation letter. He'll already sign the contract, but he asks how much he wants to be paid. Somewhat embarrassed, Huang says 2,100 is enough for him, and he hopes the boss doesn't think that's too much. Paikian puts his hand on his face, leaving him anxious. I knew I had overdone it. But Paikian starts listing all the expenses I'll have to work in the city center. With that, he says the company will pay at least 3,500. Huang doesn't know what to say, and our protagonist says 4,000. It was the famous reverse negotiation again. Embarrassed, he says that's great, and our guy says it's decided and welcomes him to the company. The poor guy leaves trembling. Paikian keeps refusing every experienced guy who could make the company succeed and hires all the inexperienced young people with the excuse that they have a visionary eye. A week later, Mei Yang is going to visit him. When he enters the room, he asks how the hiring is going. Our protagonist hands him the list. Mei Yang obviously gets a shock, saying the people seem very young and inexperienced, and asks why he hasn't hired any chief designers. Did nobody apply for that position by any chance? Paikian tells Mei Yang that a lot of people applied, but he rejected all of them. Mei Yang asks why, and our protagonist explains that it's because those guys are too outdated and don't have a passion for the game. So he's going to be a head designer and will only ask for help from that blonde guy he hired. Seeing the resume, Mei Yang says the guy doesn't seem very experienced. Is Paikian sure about this? Paikian says yes, especially because he's looking for someone who can't see how stupid his ideas are. Also, they have a gamer who plays all day. With such an infallible duo, the company can't go wrong. Mei Yang asks when they'll actually start working, and Paikian says it will be tomorrow. He then makes an announcement to everyone in the company that tomorrow things really begin. People seem eager to finally start working, even if it's a 9 to 9-6. That means working 12 hours a day, 6 days a week. He doesn't care and will give his best. Paikian says to celebrate the start of work tomorrow, everyone should shut down their computers and go home now. Huang was ready to work and gets surprised. What's wrong with this boss? Our protagonist says it's Friday, today is a day for fun, so they're going to rest. Let's go home, everyone. He looks at the clock and it's only 3 p.m. What are they going to do now outside of work? Back home, our protagonist goes once again to his mental meeting to think about what kind of game would be perfect to incur losses this time. One of them says the goal is to choose the wrong direction and ensure that the employees don't notice. Since the mobile industry is doing very well, they have to avoid that. How about trying to create a computer game to compete with one of the biggest of all? One of them suggests making that style of game a style they don't have, but they all agree that the entire company can't do it. They hired a bunch of amateur people, and that style would be impossible. So on the 12th day, he calls everyone for a meeting. As no one works during a meeting, they're all focused. He then reveals that they're going to make a first-person shooter game for computers, something none of them has ever done. Huang's about to say something, but he already tells him to wait and announces that there won't be a mobile version. Their intention is to dominate the industry, so they don't even want to bother with an insignificant game. At Tenga, they're either going to success or fail. There's no middle ground. People applaud. Truly, the boss is visionary. He's on another level. He then points to Huang and Baxu and says the two are responsible for everything this time. Baxu will develop the entire design concept and Huang will handle all the execution. Obviously, they don't feel prepared. Huang thinks he needed about 6 more years of experience to do something like this. But Patty Keaton warns for this game he has 3 requirements. It needs to have an interesting story. It needs to make it as easy as possible for new players. And lastly, he wants incredible weapons that can be bought for 888 yuan. They can decide the cost of the trial period, and that's it. Any questions? Huang wants to say something, but our guy interrupts and says the meeting is over, and everyone applauds. Baxu starts drawing and poor Huang starts working on the project. Meanwhile, Mei Yang will be responsible for helping others and learning as much as possible. If there's any problem, especially related to money, just inform him. He's confident about the first-person shooter game. Nobody cares about the story mode. Usually people just want to exchange bullets, so they're going to do a lot of things that nobody will even play. That's the kind of useless work. Not to mention that experienced players really like aiming, so if he makes the aiming part too easy, they'll hate it. Also, the payment of 888 yuan per weapon, it becomes inaccessible. He's trying to take everything good from a game called Counter-Strike and do the opposite. With almost no one on the team knowing how to make an FPS game, this is doomed to fail. In the next scene, Huang says, "I'll work overtime even if he cuts my salary. I don't care." Baxu hands him some stuff, and they pause to chat. It seems they're unsure about creating a story mode. They won't be able to compete with the other giant companies. They'll have to focus on reducing costs as much as possible in creating the characters. Since the game is in first person, they can easily reduce the cost there. If they follow the zombie theme, it'll be very simple. They only need zombies and mercenaries. Then they just need to take the base model and paint it in various colors to have various zombies. Huang says it's a good idea, but it'll be difficult to create an original story with just zombies and mercenaries. They need something more. Bao Xu says he has an idea. He just needs a girl, and he'll make her mute and it'll be perfect. Huang asks why she needs to be mute, and Baxu explains it's to save money since they won't need to hire anyone to do the voice. Indeed, the guy has an IQ of 1000. They'll convey her emotions solely through expressions. She'll be like a light in the darkness. They continue discussing various ideas and time passes. It's now November 14th, a Wednesday. Our guy is at college, but he wishes he were at the company with his employees. He's even playing the Dan Ghost General when he receives a message saying they finished the drafts and should take a look. The text is too long, so he decides to see if they've done the 3 things he wanted. There will be a story mode, it'll be easy to aim, and there will be epic, expensive weapons. It's perfect. Obviously, he should have read the project a bit more. It's already November 18th with 67 days left until the cycle closes. Our guy sees that the money in the system is only increasing, while there's still nothing in his personal account. Why is it so hard to lose money? At that moment, Mei Yang enters and informs him that everyone in the company is working secretly. Our guy is shocked. Why are they doing this? He asks, are they working or playing? Mei Yang says they're playing, and with that, Pai Qian relaxes. He sits down and asks, are you sure they were playing? Mei Yang says yes. That's why he came to warn him, because it's a waste of the company's resources for these guys to be playing. Pai Qian says there's no need. It's better for them to be playing than working, right? They're a gaming company, so they were probably seeking inspiration from other games. His friend asks if he should leave them alone, and the protagonist agrees, and says that in overtime they'll pay 1.5 times more, and on weekends they'll pay double. He hands a sheet to Mei Yang and tells him to note every extra second they spend in this company. When he leaves, he sits, thinking he's a genius. He'll finally manage to spend more money. The next day, hesitantly, Huang goes there and knocks on the door. Our protagonist tells him to come in, and he comes in with a sheet, somewhat unsure, saying it's the resources they need to buy. Huang is thinking. He did his best to find good quality resources at a reasonable price. There shouldn't be a problem, right? Seeing the list, our show-off gets angry. How did he manage to save so much? 670,000 to make the entire game. He returns it and says he wants him to redo it with double the budget. He needs to spend money. Huang is puzzled but says okay, and then asks the name of the game. He says Bao Xu wants to name it Ocean Fortress, but he finds it strange and wants the boss to decide the name. Pai Qian recognizes the name as a failed movie from his last life, and with that, Ocean Fortress is a perfect name. Let's use that. Huang is obviously working hard, chatting with everyone in the company and increasing the budget since the boss asked. He sits at the desk and receives a message saying his salary has been cut, but it's much more than he expected. Could it be a mistake? He sees Xin Haley passing by and asks to talk to her. He shows her, saying that he received the wrong salary. He earned more than he should have. But Xin Haley tells him that it's correct, it's the payment for overtime. He is taken aback and she says it's normal for the company. He thought he would never receive the legendary overtime pay. Everyone at the company cries. They found it strange that Boss Pei didn't say anything when they worked more, but now everything is clear. He knew about the overtime from the beginning and simply let them do what they wanted, but he paid much more. Everyone is moved and motivated. While our boy is on the couch disbelieving, why is it so hard to spend the money from this cursed system? In an emergency meeting, they need to spend impulsively, but all the clones are exhausted. They have already spent everything possible at the company and don't even have anywhere else to put money. It's all the fault of that damn General Coast who never stops making a profit. One of the clones has an idea. What if they organize an employee trip? However, the system won't accept it if it's just that. So he decides to plan a trip to places where there are companies with FPS games. That way he can spend a lot on hotels, travel, flights, and everything else, and still use the excuse that he's taking the employees to learn. So he calls Halu and explains the whole plan to her. She takes notes, and some time later, the group is already discussing it while playing. Indeed, they are going to travel just to learn. How crazy. They just find it peculiar that nobody has ever treated them so well before. It's bizarre. Everyone is just imagining where they are going, and Huang tells them to focus on work. When Pai Qian receives the budget, he is shocked. It's only 150,000. What kind of crap is this? Halu apologizes, saying she did her best to lower the prices as much as possible. Apparently, spending too much on a high-standard administrator was not a good idea. He asks if they can travel executive instead of economy. However, the system warns that it's not possible. Halu says she contacted the companies to schedule everything. The company they are going to visit is Sunstrike Studios. When its owner learns about the trip, he is confused. What kind of company plans a company exchange? The receptionist says it's the company behind the General Coast game. Zhou Yan, the owner of Sunstrike, knows the game, and since it's successful, he thinks it'll be good to meet the owner. So he accepts the exchange and says he'll receive them personally. The receptionist confirms and then hands him a list of newbies' dismissals. He takes a look and tells her to fire everyone except Lin Wan and leaves without saying anything else. The receptionist wonders why this person wasn't fired again. When he sits in his chair, he thinks about it. The reason he didn't fire this Lin Wan is that she is the granddaughter of a boss of a giant company. The guy asked him to let her work there and show her how bad the companies are until she resigns and gives up. But even seeing how bad the lives of game creators are, she doesn't give up, so he can't fire her. Sometime later, they are already at the hotel, and Mei Yan is complaining that he has to keep calling the protagonist boss. He wants to call them friend. But our boy says that can't happen. No one can know they know each other, since he's the special spy. The next morning, they are all heading to the company, and his employee is impressed. A company like that with its own building must be very good and pay very well. The company guy then comes to receive him, and when he sees that Pai Qian is wearing a custom suit, he realizes the boy is rich. They show the recording room, the design room, some cosplays they have, leisure areas, and everything else. However, Huang, seeing that the only thing in their leisure room is a TV, thinks it doesn't even make sense to call it a leisure room. Theirs is much better. Their rest area has only one sofa for such a large company. It's impossible to fit everyone. The food area has about 4-5 snacks, and there's even a warning not to take too much. Compared to their company, it's really bad. Zhu Yan, who wants to know why the Tengda employees don't seem impressed with his company. He was expecting to hear a lot of praise, but it's total silence. Mubian remembers that the protagonist asked him to ask questions and then says, "Wow, today is Saturday. Why are so many employees working overtime?" The two from the company look at each other, thinking that in this company, it's not overtime to work on Saturday, they work every day of the week. Huang explains that they're working because overtime is normal. Mei Yang says he understands it's really good to be able to earn extra money. There are so many people doing overtime that you guys must spend a lot paying for it. The guys from Sunstrike freeze. It's as if they pay anything. Pai Qian holds Mei Yang back and tells him to stop asking those things to the guys. Wang then apologizes for him, saying he doesn't understand much about the industry yet. The guy says it's okay and that he will take them to a meeting to share experiences. And they walk through the corridors where several employees are working. While some comment that the workspace there is very cramped. Wang says it looks like a normal space. Actually, the problem is that at Tengda it's too big. Zhu Muyan heard this and didn't understand because his company gives a good space compared to the standard. Huang then gives a presentation on why the General Ghost game was successful. The first reason was using an innovative and bold artistic style. The second was respecting consumers and the low cost of the game. This made everyone feel good playing without needing to spend much. And the third thing is that he didn't spend anything on marketing and only used social media. Our Pai Qian thinks he explained it well, but wasn't what he wanted. Zhao Muyan is looking at the protagonist thinking that the guy is crazy not to have spent anything on marketing and even hired a rookie to be an artist. He really is a young man of great attitude and courage. He then steps forward and announces that they are preparing a shooting game called Bullet Hole, and the goal is to surpass Counter-Strike. The most important thing in the game will be the difficulty. In shooting games, usually the enthusiasts are veterans, so they will make something challenging. They are working hard on the visuals and even have military personnel on the project. They will make the game free, but the equipment will cost a lot. Huang gets scared. It sounds like the game they are making, but with everything that people like. If they launch at the same time, it will end the Fortaleza do Oceano. But when he looks to the side, the protagonist is smiling. And Wang begins to think that he came there just to check out the guy's approach. And now he's sure the Fortaleza do Oceano will be a success. Sometime later, Pai Qian thanks them for everything, and Zhu Muyan says it was a pleasure to have him there at the company. As he's leaving, a girl finally appears in this story to talk to him. She is Lin Wang, the granddaughter of the guy who owns a giant company. She says she wants to ask him a few things. She then asks if making money is the main goal when creating a game. Pai Qian replies that the main goal is to bring joy, because in fact his main goal is to lose money. She smiles happily and asks if his company doesn't have a dismissal system. He says of course not. Every employee in the company is like family. They have to grow and learn together. He would never abandon anyone, because how is he going to spend money if he keeps firing others? She asks if the employees in his company work overtime. He says he tries to send them home, but it's been difficult lately. The most he can do is pay more for overtime. She asks if he's fulfilling a kind of childhood dream. He says no, his goal is to make money, but she tells him to stop lying. If he really wanted to make money, he would have set a much higher price for General Ghost. She then thanks him for answering the questions and goes away happy and radiant. Pai Qian wonders who she was. In the next scene, she's already talking to Zhu Muyan, saying she wants to quit. He's very happy. Finally, I managed to make her see the darkness of the game development world. And he asks her, are you going to give up the game industry? She says no. He doesn't understand why she's quitting, and asks if she encountered any problems. She says she just feels like she won't be able to achieve any of her dreams there and she wanted to try another place. Where could it be, right? Back at the good company, our protagonist asks Huang if he wants to postpone the project, to which he replies that it won't be necessary. Pai Qian says he wants to see the game, already afraid it might be good. Wang then shows him in story mode, players will fight from a lower floor to the top and has a total duration of 6 hours. They will also release a weapon that will cost 888 as he requested. Our protagonist starts to worry. Who asked this guy to make a decent game? He remembers that he actually doubled the budget. He probably has some blame in this. But he knows that competing with others with just this won't be enough, and this expensive weapon won't turn out well either. Huang asks if he wants to see the rest of the game, but Pai Qian says no. Then he takes a look at the official review, and then leaves confidently, since they will launch together with the Bullet Hole. With such competition, for sure there won't be a way for them to win. The defeat will be bitter, or sweet in this case, right? Looking at the system, he says he's finally starting to go into the red. It's been a lot of work to spend so much, but he's managing. He just needs to make an effort to spend the last 100,000 he has. He then calls Heilu and tells her to organize an event tomorrow to celebrate the completion of the game. They will eat at a great restaurant, then everyone will go to karaoke and to a shopping mall. They should reserve all the rooms. Heilu says it's a Friday, but our guy says it would be unfair to use one of their days off for this. She says she understands and then informs him that the girl from the other company came here for an interview. He's thinking that she doesn't need money. That's impossible. And Heilu says she noticed that she is from a rich family. But she seemed kind of absent-minded and lost and probably not very good at work. Our guy thinks accustomed to spending money and still not very good. That's perfect. He doesn't even interview her and says he can hire her. He'll pay her 4,000 a month and let her do whatever she wants today. Tomorrow, they will pass on some activities. Helu enters the room and congratulates her for being hired. Just sign this here, and you'll get 4,000 a month. She is happy and wants to know where she can start working. Helu warns her that her job is to go to karaoke and the mall tomorrow. The game has already been launched and Baksu is slumped in the chair. Huang comments that it seems the boss hasn't released anything yet. Baksu says the boss asked not to release anything. They trust that he must have some bigger plan. Huang sits down saying that they really don't need to be insecure. The boss knows what he's doing. They have nothing to do, so they decide to call a group to test the game. They don't have anyone in the company who likes FPS, and a friend of theirs says they can call a Counter-Strike group. But Huang says that's not very right to keep using others as guinea pigs without them knowing. But then Lin Wan shows up saying she knows several people and asks if they want her to contact them. Huang is startled and asks where she knows them from, and she says that when they were testing bullet holes, she met all the players since she was in touch, and that's why she has their numbers. He then says perfect, and in an apartment, there's a professional player and streamer receiving a message from Lin Wan asking him to test a game. The guy thinks it's bullet hole, but she says it's another game. He then says she's bold to leave the company when the game is launching, especially since when the game is launched, the team gets a lot of bonuses. She says the bonus means nothing to her and explains that the company she's working for now is much better, so stop talking nonsense and test already. He asks if the company will pay at least 500 for the test. She says no, but he'll get a Desert Eagle in the game. He says her new company is stingy then. How can you ask to test a game but won't pay anything? She says he can trust that the company isn't stingy. They will even give him a permanent epic weapon. He gets angry because why would he want an epic weapon from a game he doesn't even know will be successful? She says the weapon will cost 888 and he's shocked. What kind of expensive game is this? It's easier to commit armed robbery than to ask for $800 for a skin. But with that, he decides to give it a try because of their friendship. He says the name sounds like garbage, but the graphics aren't that bad. Strange that there's only one weapon in the entire store. He thinks it's not worth playing, but sees that there's a story mode and decides to give it a try. And then he finds himself waking up in the middle of a bunch of creatures. He gets up, falls, and even receives a tutorial on how to walk. He opens the door hoping a boss won't appear right away, but it's obvious a zombie is coming. At this point, he takes the Texan household tool from the creature's pocket and sends it to oblivion. But he gets bitten and infected, so he's going to die. At that moment, a girl suddenly stops in front of him, pulls her blood, and throws it on him. With that, he's cured. He tries to communicate with her, but realizes she changes and is impressed. It really is a very original story. The most interesting part is that it's easy to hit the bullets and easy to control. Using a big gun to blow heads off is very satisfying. He keeps playing, facing the boss using bazookas and atomic explosions. He wakes up in a helicopter and finishes the game. And then he starts sending messages to his friends saying the game is really good. Our hero is confident that this game has finally failed. When he enters the company, there's no one at the reception. When he looks, Huang is standing there staring at her. He realizes no one is looking at him and thinks apparently such a huge failure shook everyone. As much as his goal is to lose money, he knows everyone has worked hard and it's not easy to deal with failure either. So he decides to give some words of comfort. When Lin Wan sees him arrive, she informs everyone and they start celebrating. Our guy is confused and Huang comes forward and says, "Boss, I learned a lot working for you. I didn't understand why you didn't want to promote the game, but now I understand. A really good game only needs good feedback from the players and everything will work out naturally." Peikian is shattered. "You're not telling me the game became popular, are you?" Huang throws his arm up and says you can keep updating the platform. Popularity, number of active players, or even profit, we destroyed bullet hole. They bring out a giant champagne bottle. Everyone is happy and cheerful, except our poor guy. Seeing him going to the room calmly, they think everything went according to his calculations. This success wasn't even a surprise, that's confidence. Our guy falls on the other side of the door wondering what he did wrong again. How is it possible? It makes no sense. How can he not fail? He didn't let Wang Jing help with this project to avoid anyone promoting him, so where did it go wrong? The comments are a mess, so there's no way to know why it became popular. But he thinks, I'm the boss, I'm going to tell Huang to analyze this. And he sends a message for him to analyze the success, both in design and marketing, and send it to him. In the clone discussion, they say they made a serious mistake by having a good story mode with an easy-to-play game, which attracted many casual players. Not to mention that the only one that sells for 888 made those who like to spend money enter just to show off. Looking at the profits from the system, he should have made at least 500,000 and got 600,000. In the end, after all the calculations, he earned 6,000 working for 3 months. The poor guy is earning less than any employee. And now with another successful game, it's going to be even harder. But there are still 2 days left for the system to finish the calculations, and he just needs to spend everything possible in that time. He has already given a raise to everyone, or at least everything the system allowed him to increase. In addition to giving an extra 1,000 yuan to everyone who participated in the project as a bonus in the case of the entire company. He tells Halu to create a new clause that allows everyone to spend up to 3,500 from the company as long as it's for work-related items. Huang is happily working when once again he receives the notification the guy is already earning 15,000 a month, and everyone in the office is impressed with how much they're receiving. Halu continues distributing the 1,000 bonus and also informs that the company will help pay up to 3,500 for anything they need for work. Baksu notices immediately you can even buy game-related items with the extra help from the company. People are starting to get scared. The boss is too good. Halu says there's no need for them to be shy, and today they can even leave work early because the boss will take everyone for a celebration. Not ironically, he informs them that they're there to celebrate, but they still have to stick to work hours. He tells everyone to use the bonus he gave them plus the 3,500 it's good for everyone to spend. Everyone goes happily to spend money. He sees everyone entering the stores, talking about what they're going to buy, and he becomes confident. Finally, he's going to lose a little. People are thinking of buying clothes, Nintendo Switch, the girls are buying expensive lipstick and makeup. Baksu went to buy a mechanical keyboard, and everyone is spending. On the other hand, the protagonist is observing everyone, and Lin Wan notices that. Our Pai Qian is worried that people won't spend money, so he has to keep an eye on it. One of his employees was looking at his cell phone when he saw on the camera our protagonist right behind saying, if you like it, just buy it. However, the guy says it's better not to. His cell phone will last at least another year, and $39.99 is too expensive too. Pai Qian says to just use the company's special credit, and the guy is disbelieving, but how is that possible? It's not related to work, so it doesn't make sense to use the company's credit. Our hero says he's thinking about the possibility of developing new mobile games in the future, and if they're going to make a new version of General Ghost, how will he test the game? The guy starts to believe but is still a bit confused, and Pai Qian keeps insisting until he accepts. He keeps going to everyone's face, telling them to buy as much as possible. Everyone who hesitates, he finds a way to convince, and the person becomes happy. Meanwhile, Lin Wan realizes he's buying things for everyone but himself. He sees her on his back when he goes to tell her to buy something. She says she already has everything in the store. That's the problem with having a rich employee. But finally, he enters a store to buy something for himself. The system only allows him to spend 70,000, and that's what he spends. He bought a 42,000 Rolex, a 20,000 handbag, a 7,000 pen, and a Louis Vuitton belt. Lin Wan says she never expected the boss to be so economical. Really a controlled boy, he didn't even spend 100,000. Wang and Lin observe that everything he bought is just to improve his image as a boss. He really is an incredible boss. But Pai Qian is devastated. He's already spent everything the system allows, but it's still not enough. So he asks Halu what he should buy. The girls are thinking, but they can't come to a consensus. Until Lin Wan says he should buy glasses that will help his life. He then asks Halu to take him to the most expensive store, and the scoundrel manages to spend another 16,000. Finally, he managed to put the company 20,000 in the negative. It's a small step for man, but a big step towards victory against the system. When the system reaches the conversion phase, he receives 21,000. The rascal managed it, and the system's next mission is to have a physical store either in a bustling city or near a university. Our guy decides to take initiative before things start going wrong, or in this case, start going right. He needs to deal with the most dangerous ones in this company. So he gives a prize to Wine, who celebrates. He's the company's best employee, and right after, he takes away his position and says he won't work with the game anymore. He hands him $1 million check and says he'll be in charge of some new project for the company, and he can think about what that project is on his own. Obviously, he refuses, but our guy insists as usual. He has nothing better to do and accepts. Then he tells Baksu to take a month off. He can travel wherever he wants and relax. However, obviously, Baksu doesn't want to. He'll stay in LA in house playing, and it's much better, the company. But Pai Qian already knew he would refuse, so he planned a trip route for him that also involves learning about game design. That way, poor guy can't refuse. He then calls Mei Yang into his office and says he'll let him be in charge of creating the physical store he wants. A huge place. It will be a mix of a LAN house with competitive games with a computer parts store. It will be a revolutionary place in a huge building, and he'll trust Mei Yang with all of it, which crying emotional and says he can do it. Our protagonist thinks all the pieces are on the table. After removing Huang from his position, he left Lumen Lang in charge of the game direction, who doesn't understand anything about it. Furthermore, with Mei Yang leading the physical unit, the best he can achieve is leave a like on the video to help Mamoru to produce more juicy content for his brothers. Hit that cheeky little bell, and I'm out.